Hello, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm Linden, CEO and founder of IFT, here today for another Ask Me Anything. I really appreciate the folks that have tuned in so far, and we greatly appreciate all the support we've seen with the launch of Pro. I know there's still lots of questions and concerns, and I promise you we have been listening, and we are still considering different changes to make sure we try to keep as many of our users and folks that have been with us for years happy, and also want to try to address any of those concerns, whether they're old concerns or new concerns or questions here in this Ask Me Anything. I want to remind everybody that Pro, we have just a little over a week left for the set your own price offer that we've allowed folks to set their own price as low as $199 a month. That ends October 7th. So that's coming right up. We want to make sure people are aware of that. And Pro is going to continue to evolve. We've already closed out over 200, bug fixes and issues since we launched back in early September. So our product and engineering teams have been working, frankly, just been working their asses off. I'm so proud of those folks. And we have a lot more coming. In the short term, one of the things that we just introduced yesterday is some manual options for folks to pay via PayPal or or pay on an annual basis. We're doing this by hand now and working on, the actual full product solution. You'll find links and some more info on that in our help center. And we'll be bringing those links to emails and on our checkout page as well. It became clear that people needed some different ways to pay, and that made a lot of sense. And we really worked hard to make sure we could get some of those, even if we have to do it manually, in place before that October 7th deadline. So excited to have those things out there. We've also been hard at work on a number of things that we hope to introduce just over the next few days, actually. One of those things is the ability to have multiple actions of the same type in an applet. That was one of the limitations, not on purpose, but one of the limitations at launch. And that's something that's going to be addressed and fixed here just in the next few days. We're also introducing some more powerful queries for our very popular Maker webhook service. So the Maker webhook service allows people to kind of plug in their own custom APIs. It's got some great triggers and actions, and it's really missing, a fully functioning and legit query. So that's something that we're going to get out there in the coming days as well. Also, to kind of round out that short-term list, we're hard at work on the ability for folks to use all the new features available in Pro during applet creation, during the applet edit phase as well. So you'll be able to take an applet that you created, even years ago, and eventually even applets that you've enabled from published applets, and turn those into your own kind of custom Pro applets with things like queries and multiple actions and filter code. So that's coming. I'm very excited for that. And we've also heard from a number of folks about a very specific use case. They'd like to see some of the limits that had been imposed by IFT or other services increased for Pro subscribers. So the first one out of the gate that will be happening here in the next few days is raising the Twitter tweet limit from 25 to 50 for folks that are signed up to Pro. We felt that was a kind of a reasonable change. And something that we think will also continue to help us keep some of the more mischievous use cases of IFT low, because people are willing to sign up to Pro, identify themselves with some type of payment. So I think that's a reasonable exchange to allow people to post more tweets on a per day basis. So that kind of rounds out what's happening short term. We've got a lot of things slated long-term. Long-term meaning, months, not weeks. Certainly not years. We want to get a whole lot of new things built for Pro just in the next couple months. At the top of that list, what we've heard from a lot of folks are Of course, more payment options, more ways to pay, whether those are annual plans or one-time payments. We've heard from a lot of folks, and we're working on some different things there, so we don't have to do some of that manual annual and PayPal type payment stuff in the future. We're also working on ways for people to add multiple accounts for the same service under the same Pro account. We've heard that loud and clear from folks, so really appreciate everybody who's brought that to our attention. It's something that we're really excited to get out there. And we're also, we've gotten some great feedback really at the lack of really actionable or valuable information in our applet activity logs. So that's an area that's, definitely in need of some love and attention. And we want to make sure folks, most likely both pro and free users can see a lot more information about how their applets are running, and even, kind of self-solve some of the problems that they might be running into with their applets. And a lot of that's going to be coming to the activity log soon. And outside of the product, one of the things that, we are also working towards and actually hiring new positions for is making sure that our customer support team can get back to folks as soon as possible that have subscribed to Pro. For those that have written in with a support request, thank you for your patience. We really set out with the intention to be able to respond to folks within 24 hours. And really, I think we've been overwhelmed with some of the requests, and we want to kind of give everybody a white glove experience there. And so we're spending a lot more time than we originally anticipated answering some of those requests. And so we'll be ramping up that team and hopefully lowering some of that waiting period to hear back from our team on some of those Pro support requests here in the future. Beyond that, to talk about some of the the big vision for Pro and the why behind it. I know for folks that have tuned into other sessions in the past, you've heard a little bit of this, but our intention with Pro isn't to nickel and dime folks, isn't because we're greedy. It's sincerely about making sure we can invest in users who want to do more with IFT. And we've been working to strike a balance between how businesses and brands pay for IFT. And primarily that business works by brands not just putting their API and their product on the IFT platform, but actually bringing IFT into their own product experiences via a product we call Connect. And the vast majority of those brands that are paying customers are only paying as low as $199 a year. And so for us to really justify and put the resources behind the types of features that we've introduced with Pro and that I've talked about here at the top of this session, we felt it was the right call to give users a chance to become customers as well. And I've talked in the past about how that relationship between a customer and a business, I think there's something very pure and easy about that, and allows us to really give users much more say in what the product roadmap is and how we deploy our teams to continue to build cool stuff and stuff that people love to use. And that's the real reason behind Pro. And for everybody that's signed up so far, thank you. And we're just so excited that from the response that we've gotten from the folks that have signed up, and are looking to make sure we stay flexible and listen, and are in the middle of considering things like increasing how many applets for folks that folks get on the free tier, or even finding ways to help people that have been longtime IFT users, keep some or all of their applets if they're willing to try Pro. And those are all things that we're not set in stone yet, and we're not ready to announce those types of changes. But they're the types of things that we're considering based on the feedback that we've gotten so far. And I want to make sure people know that we're listening and we're staying flexible. So yeah, with that, I think I might have lost. Oh, sorry. Windows switching out on me here. With that, I would like to open it up to questions, and we'll try to start from the top. I've got some folks on my team this time helping me read through those questions and try to get to those in a little bit more of an orderly and efficient manner. So we'll start with the first one. Got it. Pisavici. I'm sorry, I'm mispronouncing your name. I'm certain of it. You're the guy who totally roasted me on Twitter. That's cool. Keep it up. Doesn't bother me at all. I'm happy to hear from folks, whether they're roasting me, calling me names, or giving us good feedback. You know, that's part of being on the internet and part of running a business. So I appreciate it. I'm glad you're here. Radded MC said you just bought Pro this morning out of necessity and only had the choice to use a credit card in Canada. So yes, if you'd like to use PayPal, you can find a link in our help docs. Just go to the help.if.com, type in PayPal, search for PayPal, and that's another option that we currently support, but it's still very manual. You kind of open a support ticket, and somebody will kind of take care of that by hand. That's something we just introduced yesterday, and we're still in the process of getting some better links to that in the product itself. Jim Wells asking if there's any in-depth documentation for Pro. So we have some initial things in our help center. So just search Pro at help.if.com. We've also started a series of videos, some of those by folks here internally at IF. We've got a great one from our VP of product, Jeff. We've also got a series going with some other folks on YouTube that are kind of creating videos about what they're doing. And we'll be able to share some links, maybe either here in the comments, either Peter or Kevin on our team can share some of those links, or if not, hit me up on Twitter and I'm happy to send you some of those links as well. Tio is asking, how is IF Pro helping or benefiting the home automation industry? So I think first and foremost, we really see IFT as the primary connector, making it possible for any business or brand, regardless of how big their audience is or how successful their business is, to have open connectivity, to essentially allow users and other brands to connect to their services via APIs without the extreme overhead of building their own public API and managing their own developer ecosystem. With Pro, obviously, I'm sure, you might be thinking about, well, is this limit and the fact that we're asking people to pay a small amount each month to create their own applets, is that going to seriously detract from that industry? And our response to that is, one of the ways that we've really tried to kind of cordon off what's available for Pro for people that sign up and what's available for free is this idea of the published applet. And before people bring their pitchforks out, I'll say right out of the gate, IFT has a lot of work to do to make published applets both more discoverable, easier to find, and to help users and businesses publish more applets to cover more of those use cases. And that's certainly things that we want to address. Obviously, for brands, that's something we've actually been investing in for the last 2 or 3 years. But for users, it's really not. And in fact, it's near impossible now for a user to actually find in our UI the way to get to how to publish an applet. But we're going to change that, I think, here very short term. And there should be no reason why in a very short period of time, we can't stimulate what I think will be really dramatic growth in the number and range of available published applets. And using a published applet is something that is available for free. You can use as many published applets as you'd like to. And I've shared here a couple times before, one of the things that led us to this decision was the fact that the vast majority of applets that have been turned on by users over the last couple of years now have been published applets that have just simply been enabled, not created from scratch. In fact, the ratio for every applet that has been created from scratch, going through the if this then that UI, there's been 5 applets that have been enabled from a published applet. So that's a substantial difference. Again, we have a lot of work to do on our end to make those published applets more available, more kind of wide ranging in terms of the types of services they work with. but we sincerely believe that the incentives are aligned. In fact, even now more so. It's I think brands are now in a position where it's even more important than ever for them to get published applets out there that cover as many of the use cases that their users want to see. So Jim, you're saying hooray for multiple accounts. Yes, that's absolutely needed. Jim, in fact, I think we heard that within the first year of launching back in 2010, 2011. And it's something we've put off. And I think Pro really gives us that opportunity to invest in that direction. And lots of folks have let us know that that's something they'd like to see. So it's very top of mind and at the very top of our kind of longer term Pro roadmap. Yoga 3, 3 applets is rude. Please make it 6. Like I said, we've been considering, is 3 the right number? Obviously, this is, another data point there that maybe it's not. But, we thought that 3, at least out of the gate, would give people the opportunity to not just try one thing, but 3 things. And that in combination with published applets continuing to be free would really allow people to get a whole lot of value for free from IFT, without ever having to sign up to Pro. And that's the balance we want to strike. We don't see success with Pro as getting the majority of our users to sign up. In fact, it's okay if the number of users that sign up to Pro is still, a very small minority. But what we found is that small minority of folks that are creating their own applets, wanting to do something custom, a lot of those folks were doing things, whether with use cases or with certain products that they were willing to pay for those things. And so we still see IFT for free as being how most people will experience IFT. And then certainly as it comes to brands bringing IFT into their own apps, we don't want to double dip. And that's not what Pro is about. We're not trying to charge users and brands for the same value, but really trying to kind of separate out, okay, what are things that users are doing independently? What are things brands are doing independently? And then what are the things that are kind of in the middle? Pro, we really want to have Pro address the things that users are really doing independently of brands, and namely creating their own custom applet use cases themselves from scratch. Yeah, so Radded MC, you're also disappointed in the 3 applet limit. I hear you loud and clear, and it's something we're certainly considering. Ryder Craig is asking, how do you pronounce IFT? Well, like that, IFT, we like to say it's like gift without the G, but if it's pronounced IFTTT or if this and that, we can't get too mad. We're the company with 3 T's in their name. Not easy to pronounce, but really easy to recognize. So we're not upset any way you choose to pronounce it. Any way that works for you is cool. Yeah, so Arnold, you say you see no difference between free and Pro. That's on us. We need to keep doing a better job to explain that. The big difference is one of additional features, new types of applets that can only be created by pros, namely applets that use multiple actions or add queries, which are essentially API calls that exist between the trigger and action, or what we call filter, or what is today filter code that we're soon just going to make filter UI, that allows you to kind of conditionally run one or all or no actions based on evaluating some of the data you're getting from triggers and queries. The other difference is that 3 created applet limit. So those are really kind of the 2 big things. There's also applet speed that we're essentially running applets faster for pros, and actual hands-on customer support that we're able to bring to bear for pros as well. So again, we'll have some links to some different videos and different types of applets that pros are creating. We see pros now creating applets at a clip of about 200 to 300 every hour now that use these new features. So there's already a lot of applets being created by pros to date that use these new features, and there's so many cool use cases. And we're just in the early stages of trying to get some of those use cases back out to users, not just in the form of published applets, but videos and tutorials and additional documentation. Let's see. So Vishwanath is asking, can you confirm this? I can create any number of mini-step applets, and if I stop my Pro membership, I can use 3 of them, and they work the exact same way like Pro. So here's kind of the gist of that. If you sign up to Pro and create an applet that uses a feature that's only available for pros, what we're saying today is if you downgrade, if you no longer subscribe to Pro, that you can't use that applet because it uses those features that are only available to pros. But you can use up to 3 applets that don't use those Pro features if you do downgrade. And of course, that's something we're always open to reconsidering, but we felt like that was a fair trade to really justify building out some of these more powerful tools for pros, that if they're creating an applet and using some of those new tools, that they should continue with their Pro subscription to be able to use those things. And that felt fair to us. But again, we're always open to some feedback and willing to change if we're wrong. Let's see. So Elaine says it stated somewhere that webhooks are for personal usage only. Any chance to increase the number of applets able to run webhooks in free edition? So increasing that limit for free accounts, if we do that now or in the future, we'll probably do that regardless of what service it is that you're using. One of the things that isn't possible today, we decided that webhooks were so use case and individual user specific because it relies on some type of external API call, that you can't publish a Maker webhook applet today. And maybe that's another way to kind of help folks that aren't quite ready to upgrade to Pro, but still want to use more webhook applets. So that's something that might be a way to kind of get around that and still keep the limit at 3 without doing something special for webhooks. But I think that's good feedback and something we'll keep considering. Kevin says, hi, Linden, how are you today? Kevin, how are you? I'm great. I'm very happy. I'm here in San Francisco, and the Bay Area has had such a, nightmare of different events. Most recently, fires and smoke. Thankfully, no one in my immediate family has been affected by the fire part of it, but everybody I know has been affected by the smoke. And I think some of that's getting under control now. And certainly, living here in San Francisco and not having smoke is a good thing. So things are looking up. Arnold is asking, can you make year subscription in one payment with a discount? Yeah, so right now that annual kind of manual payment option, we don't have a discount involved because we're still in the middle of this set your own price period. And it felt like the discount was going to kind of add another layer of complexity. And there's still a lot of people that just would rather pay annually rather than monthly, even without a discount. But when we exit the set your own price period and we bake the annual option into the actual checkout flow, so it's not a manual process, we certainly think it's very justifiable to offer a discount for folks that are willing to pay up front for a year and only on a yearly basis. So that is definitely something we're going to do when we do it for real and not do it with a manual process. Let's see, Arnold, would you be so kind to publish how to program applets and publish for free use? Yes, so I think what you're asking is more documentation around how to actually publish an applet. So I think before we can get the documentation and tutorials out there, we've got a little bit of work to do to just make publishing applets more available and easier. And I don't think that's something on our long term. I think that's something we can do in a matter of weeks. But once we do that, yes, we want to make sure that's really clear and easy for folks to be able to publish applets. And to make sure people are really clear on published applets, we do count published applets as an applet that you've created. because it's an applet that you can create with what will eventually be the full set of tools, and also something that others can take advantage of, including yourself. So it's very much like an applet you created for yourself. So it's one of the things that count towards that applet limit if you're a free user. But we need to make it much more available and easier for folks to find and get to. Got it. So Sebastian, you're saying you want to receive email alerts from status.if.com when a service is gone. Yes. So I believe we have some we have a service on IF called the IF service. Confusingly enough, we've got some triggers there, but I don't think we have a trigger for when a service is leaving or going out of business or exiting the platform. But that's certainly something that we should take a look at. I can see where that makes it a lot easier for users to kind of get a heads up. What we do still on a manual basis, because we're in close contact with all the services on IFT, if there is a service that's going to leave or they're changing their product strategy or discontinuing a product, we work with them to make sure that all the users that have connected that product or service to IFT do get an email. But to be honest, sometimes that email can be a few weeks, a few days, and we really need to get a lot more clear on what the appropriate kind of heads up is. And once we do that, I think we can actually bake that into the system as a trigger for folks to subscribe to in other ways. So I think that's great feedback, and I agree with you completely. That's something we want to do. Let's see. So my option is asking, published applets in the Explore section will be available after the deadline. If they were created by other users, those will be available, or only those created by companies or you? Yes, happy to clear this up. So if an applet has been published, it will be available as long as that applet is published. It has no connection to the deadline. A published applet is a published applet, and it's free to use published applets. Like I said, for every one applet that's created from scratch, there's 5 applets that are enabled from published applets. And so it's kind of the vast majority of how users are getting value from the system today. And those applets can be published certainly by brands, but also by users. And I've mentioned a couple of times we have a lot of work to do to make publishing an applet as a user easier. But those applets will still be available. So hopefully that answers your question. Yogan, this is asking if developed using Ruby on Rails, and what's our tech stack? So yes, it was originally what people call a monolithic Rails app, and now it's been split up. We still have the monolithic Rails app. That Rails app actually doesn't serve any of the websites or kind of external facing APIs anymore. It's really kind of a thin layer or kind of logic layer that sits on top of well, it's not MySQL, but it's the Amazon flavor of MySQL. I believe that's called Aurora. I forget. So that still exists, but we've really split that up into what I believe is about 30 to 40 I hesitate to say microservices because I think there's a lot of baggage around that term, but different independent services that do different things. Different services that serve APIs for our mobile application, different services that serve APIs for third parties or some of the businesses that work on IFT, as well as services that do things that are one-off, things that like turn HTML into a PNG image. That's an example of a really microservice that we have. So we've kind of gone through a very similar growing or kind of painful process that a lot of companies go through, starting with the Rails app and then kind of breaking that up over time into different services that are a little bit easier to maintain as the team has grown as well. In terms of the things underlying that Rails and some of those other apps, some of those microservices are Rails, some are Node. I even believe some are Erlang, crazy enough. The actual kind of databases and all the other kind of infrastructure services are all hosted on AWS. My option is saying, so I can connect several FB, Twitter, Pinterest accounts with one pro setup. Got it. That is what I mentioned as something that's on our longer term roadmap, so months, not weeks. But the idea of having multiple accounts per service is something that we've heard from a lot of users since we launched Pro, and something that we're looking to add to Pro. My hope would be before the end of the year. But if not, then certainly not long after that. And since it's at the top of the list, maybe even shorter than that. I can't guarantee a timeline yet. Our teams aren't actively working on it, but it's at the top of that list as we extend what people can do with Pro. So you're spot on. We really need to add that, and a lot of people have let us know. Let's see, Hexen says you've currently bought 2 IF Pro accounts. Great, thank you. Would love to know more about why, but yeah, you don't like the applet creation limit. Buying a gift card but acts like a credit card. Yeah, Hexen, I'm not quite sure. I'd love to know why you bought 2. We don't want to force people to buy 2. Maybe that's the multiple account thing, but we really want to try to help people not have to do that if they don't need to. So I'd love to know, what problem we can solve on our end to make that easier for you to manage. Yeah, so Jim Wells is asking, is there a limit on how many applets a Pro member can publish? Yes, and the existing social media applets are really weak. I think a lot of the published applets are really weak. We've got over 200,000 published applets, believe it or not. But the majority of those have been used 0 or 1 times. And I don't think we have anywhere near approaching even kind of 50% coverage of all the possible combinations. We may never approach that, but I think there's still a lot of use cases that people would find valuable that don't have a published applet for them yet. So we have a lot of work to do there. And to your question about pros can create unlimited applets, and they can also publish unlimited applets. So they're, once you're a pro, there are no limits to the applets that you can create or publish. Andreas is asking that you believe that most users don't need applets with queries or conditional logic, multiple actions. They only want simple if. Would be better to just charge those users. And certainly something we've heard from other folks as well. I'll say it as clearly as possible. I agree. It sucks for something to be free and to then be something that you have to pay for. Maybe that's me as a CEO shooting myself in the foot, but that's the honest truth. No one likes that. But the other honest truth is, for us to continue to build and support users, we need to have a much crisper customer business relationship with those users, even if it's a very small, almost nominal amount per month. Otherwise, we're going to be pulled into building more and more things for brands, which we also want to do, but they don't often align with what users want to do. And certainly users that I think are likely pro users that are looking to do something very custom and go above and beyond just what you can easily turn on via what's available via published applet. So that's why we felt like not only the new features, but also this idea of limiting the applets that users have created was a strong signal, that allowed us to say, okay, these are the users that are getting a lot more value as an individual, sometimes almost at exclusive of the value that the brands are getting. And that those are the users that we want to invest in, that we want to build more things for, because those are the users that are going kind of above and beyond what the average user is doing on IFT, which is just using published applets. Let's see. So I lost my place here. Yoganeth, I think I pronounced your username different each time. Apologies. Do you guys have a plan for open source and nonprofit sponsorship support? Would love to know more about what you mean. We've done a number of open source projects in the past, things that we built internally that we have turned around and open sourced. I think it's been a while since we've introduced a new one, but would love to hear more if you have some specific ideas on where we could do that. We're certainly one of what I think is probably nowadays just about every company that takes advantage of open source. We wouldn't be able to do what we do with a team the size that it is without open source projects. So we certainly want to make sure that we're doing what we can to contribute back. And certainly as our team grows, that's something that we'll want to do more of over time. So my option is asking, so you can connect several FB, Twitter, Pinterest accounts with one pro setup. Oh, sorry, somehow that question got posted twice. See, got it. So Jim Wells is asking, well, sorry for so many questions. Nope, that's exactly what this session is for. Hopefully we can get to them all. If I don't get to a question that you have in the time, just hit me up on Twitter @LTibbets on Twitter, and we'll make sure and answer it there. So you've been trying to get some questions answered through support since the announcement. Do you need to pre-buy pro accounts at the set your own prices in order to keep the lower price until the multiple accounts feature is added? So yes, we cannot guarantee that minimum price for set your own price beyond this special offer period. We're not ready to say, what's going to change about the price. We initially launched with what was really an aspirational, kind of base price of $9.99. Became very clear to folks and to us that we were still a pretty long way off from that aspiration. So I don't think that monthly rate after this offer is going to be $9.99, but we're not yet ready to make an announcement on what that will be. But it will very likely be more than $199 per month, as it is in this special offer. So if you're willing to sign up and wait 1 or 2 months for the multiple accounts, then we'd love for you to do that. But if not, we want to get that out there, and hopefully that makes Pro more valuable. That helps us start to kind of reach toward that aspirational $9.99 price point, even if that's not the price that we've set at the time. Yogith, any plans for ClickUp integration? I'll be honest, I don't know that much about ClickUp, but what I will say is for any service that you'd like to see on IFT, we now have the developer plan. That's something we introduced this year. It was actually one of the catalysts on the other side of our business that led to Pro and why Pro made sense. It's as low as $199 flat just to be on IFT as a business. So I'd recommend that you reach out to them either via support or on Twitter. Let them know that you'd like to see ClickUp on IFT, and it should be really easy, both financially and technically, for them to get plugged in. So Jim Wells is asking, will there be a feature, hopefully soon, that allows us to group our applets better? Something like folders or something like that. So yes, and in fact, that's also something I'll admit we've done a very poor job of. I personally have 230 applets. Some of those just enabled, some of those created from scratch. And, unless it's about managing an applet that I've created or used just in the last few days, it's a real nightmare to manage that. Certainly, if I also can't remember what to search for to find it. So we do want to add some more things, whether it's folders or tags or, there's different flavors of ways to help people more easily manage their applets. And we still have a lot of work to do to make it easier to filter applets or search for applets as well. So those are both things that we want to do. And those are things that will very likely, almost guaranteed, be available to everybody. It may not make sense for free users to manage applets, but we have a lot of free users that have just used published applets, in some cases hundreds of published applets. So it will probably help them as well. Vishwa is asking, will I be charged the same amount when I set your own price? Yes. So what we've said with set your own price is that if you sign up now within this offer period and set your price, that we'll honor that price forever. From a business standpoint, that's not necessarily good for us. Most subscription services over some period of time do increase their prices. I've been a Netflix subscriber for years and years, and I think that price has increased in one way or another a couple times now. But it's one of the things we wanted to do as we launched Pro is make it really clear, because it sucks for something to go from free to paid, that we want to give some people some confidence that if they're willing to sign up and kind of grow with us and be patient and evolve and help us make Pro better over time, that we'll be willing to honor that price as long as they're signed up to Pro. And that's something that we're committed to. So answer yes. Hexen, oh no, just for a friend. Oh, you bought a Pro account for a friend. That's great. Maybe for the holidays, we'll get a gift card or something like that. Thank you for clarifying. Yeah, so my Upton, you have an account per website and different profiles, and having a single Pro account would be amazing. Cool. Hopefully multiple accounts per service will help solve that for you. Yogith is asking, do we use GitHub or GitLab for source control? So we're GitHub. I think we've been on GitHub since it was just one person working on that monolithic Rails app. So I think that's the only source control we've ever even considered, but I've heard good things about GitLab as well. Yes, so DGBQ asking a very similar question to Jim. Will we add user-defined grouping and sorting? Jim was asking about folders, but yes, that's something we want to add. Would love if you have any, kind of more specific details about what exactly you'd like to see, or even better yet, if you could point us to other similar services or even services that do something totally different than what we do, that help users kind of group and organize a large number of things. If you think somebody's doing that really well, would love to learn from them. So please point those our way. Benny says, I have some applets that I cannot edit or delete since the revamp. They are public. What can I do? Sounds like that's a bug, but certainly if you're willing to reach out to me on Twitter, or maybe Kevin and Peter can point you in the direction of support. Would love to learn more and probably ask 2 or 3 different questions to kind of understand what problem you're seeing. And if it is a bug, we'll fix it. So Decoded is asking, would you set your own price disappear if you ever unsubscribe? So the answer is yes. Right now, our plan is, to honor that set your own price forever, as long as you continue as a Pro subscriber. But the second that you unsubscribe, for some period of time, if you change billing info and things like that, that's totally fine. We'll continue to honor that. But if you ever unsubscribe and downgrade, we can't guarantee or essentially won't guarantee that set your own price. You'll have to sign back up at the price it is at that time. Yogi is asking, is Alex Tibbetts my brother? I don't know what gave that away. Yes, he is my brother. He's my younger brother by 2 years. And he's been with us here at IFT since nearly the beginning. And the story there is he moved out from New York City, was staying with me temporarily here in San Francisco as he got his own place and got set up, and happened to be staying with me at the very same time that we launched IFT into beta. And it was kind of a one-man operation at that time. And we were very quickly overwhelmed. Got to about 200,000 users in the matter of a couple months, and he just started doing any and everything to help keep it alive and keep it going. And I've been so lucky to work with him over the years. I wouldn't recommend working with family, but I'm thankful that Alex and I have made it work. We've got about 15 minutes remaining. So, great questions so far. Hopefully this is helpful for folks. A few new questions here. So Andreas is saying companies like Sonoff charge for IFT, the service to use. So if you go pro, that would mean you pay double. So can we do something about that? So we can't control what services charge for or don't charge for. At some point, the limit of our influence on those businesses is not absolute, nor should it be. But that said, I think, we have to be really clear that IFT has evolved their pricing model for businesses quite a bit over the last 2 or 3 years. Just this year, we reached what we believe is a steady state with the introduction of the developer plan on the low end and Connect and the team and enterprise plan that scale with a per user fee on the high end. And I think it will still take probably another 6 to 12 months to help businesses get into the right plan, based on their renewal schedule. And so, if Zonoff isn't looking to invest in some of the things that we offer on the high end, well, they have the option to go down to the developer plan, and that's $199 a year flat, no per user fee. And so in no sense, once they're on that plan, do we think it makes sense for them to charge users to use IFT? And we're happy to, if those folks reach out, and happy to work with them, because our intention, like I said at the earlier in the hour, is to really kind of separate out how our business works, where we're not double dipping. Because again, we didn't launch Pro because we're greedy. We launched Pro because we want to invest in and build things for users outside of the things that brands are asking us to build into the product. And so we don't want to see brands charging for IFT because we don't believe IFT should be something that is so burdensome from a financial standpoint that it forces the brands to do that. But that'll take some time. But hopefully in the next 12 months max, we get that all reorganized and you start to see folks not seeing the need to charge for IFT. There's been a handful of people that have done that. And that's totally fine. We're not going to criticize them for doing that, even after that 12-month period. But hopefully it's something that works itself out over time. Got it. So Druvra, I'm so sorry, I'm mispronouncing your name. What if we don't set our own price within a week? After that 9 days, if you want to sign up or set your own price, how much will you have to pay? So if you don't set your own price over the next 9 days, what we're most likely to do is to introduce either a new kind of singular price that will be more than $199, or what we're also considering is extending set your own price, but raising the minimum for folks going forward outside of this initial offer period. But either way, will very likely be more than the minimum as it exists today, which is $199 per month. And part of the reason we're doing that, again, is to make sure people have an easy transition from something that was free to paid. And if you're willing to sign up now, then we're willing to kind of let you set and guarantee a very low price forever. If you need some more time to think about it, that's totally fine. But we can't guarantee that price will be available outside of this period. So Vishwa is saying you can see a lot of users getting on board of a price specific to other countries like India, or price per applet. So yes, that's something that I think we've learned the hard way. We knew a little bit of it going in, but obviously we're a U.S. based business, but only about 40% of our users are here in the U.S. And that $199 U.S. dollars price point sometimes doesn't translate into something that is of relative value or makes sense for different folks in different countries. And certainly if folks have to pay, VAT or other types of taxes or things that are imposed because they're either paying a U.S. business or paying U.S. dollars. And we want to try to solve for that, whether that's through localization and price points that make sense per region or country, or just different payment options that allow people some different ways to work around some of those, kind of additional costs that they incur. So we fully acknowledge that. And I did share that we now at least have a manual way if you want to pay via PayPal. That's something we've learned a lot from folks, especially in other countries, is a more kind of appeasing option for them is to pay through PayPal. And that's something we can do. And we have some links in the Help Center, and we'll be putting those into the product here shortly as well, hopefully. So Todd Powers is saying, I struggle with location control. You have to manually define an area each time to reference it. I like to name a location home and then just reference that. Okay. Yeah, that's a good call. I think one of the things that we could even consider too is creating a different type of location trigger that isn't as general, search and put a point on a map anywhere in the world. That's more specific to you. In fact, we're actually building some tools out for some of our business customers that allow them to use location in their own applications in new ways. And if we can bring some of that new goodness over to users as well, I'd really like to. So I think that's a great call out. It's super cumbersome to kind of search for your home each time. And we even have some bugs that we're aware of just in that process today. So we hopefully can even make that process as it exists today a lot easier. The one that I think is still a little weird is that on some platforms, the map actually orients to what used to be the IFT office in San Francisco rather than your current location. And because it's a location service, it should at least start at your current location. So you don't have to search for something that's just a couple miles away. My option says, good information. Do not forget to share it with the community. Got it. Yes, this is something that's brand new. Just in the last, I think 24 hours was this available. So we will be sharing those links out to the manual PayPal and annual options here soon to everybody. So I think you're spot on. We'll make sure people know. Tom, yeah, you're asking a very similar question that I answered, but in short, if you sign up, set your own price for Pro now, cancel in the future, we can't guarantee that price. It will very likely, in fact, almost guaranteed, you have to sign up at whatever price we're offering Pro at the time. And I did discuss, we initially said that $9.99 was kind of that aspirational base price. We've learned enough from folks that price is still too high, that we still have to add a lot more value to justify that price. And I think that's fair. We want to continue to work towards that price. We want to create that much value, but we're not going to charge that much. So expect that final base price to be somewhere in between $199 and $999 as we exit this period. So we got about 5 minutes remaining. Reddit MC says, yeah, $199 is $2.60 in Canada. Hear you loud and clear. We want to try to fix that. Let me know if PayPal doesn't help you get around that, or if you know of some other way other than us changing the price that we can fix that short term for folks. Would love to hear it. We only kind of know what we know. The vast majority, I think about 90%, 95% of our employees are based here in the U.S. And I've never lived in another country, so I haven't had to deal with some of those issues. So would love some pointers if you know more. Daruva, hopefully that's closer, but still probably far off. You made a project which uses the IFT service, but you now want to sell the product in shops. But then how do I get the users to automatically register instead of the applet which needs to be used in the product? Got it. So you've got a couple different options. So if users can use your product independently of IFT, and I think that's what you're saying they can't do, but if they can, you can sign up, for a developer plan for $199 a year to just have your API and your product on IFT. But that means users would have to download the IFT app or sign up to IFT on their own to be able to use any of the applets that are available. One of the limits on the developer plan is the brands can't publish their own branded applets on IFT without upgrading to the team plan. Now the team plan has a per user price, so it scales with the number of users that use your applets. but it's still very reasonable, especially if you're just starting out. Like it's not something where you've got to pay lots and lots of money up front. We can scale that. We kind of pay as you go, and we actually now have an option for folks to pay that on a monthly basis, not annually. And that allows you to do a couple of different powerful things. One of those things is publish your own applets on IFT. But the other thing that I think might really knock your use case out of the park is to be able to embed applets and even go beyond applets to create, what are essentially full-on API integrations powered by IFT, and present those integrations to your users in a mobile app or an email or a website, really in the same way that you would an integration that you built without IFT. So that's really that's how the business works on the brand and service side of things. And so if you're interested, happy to connect with folks on our sales team to help you learn more. We also have a lot of published docs on that side as well. Michael's actually, hopefully we do more streams in the near future. You're a huge fan. You're in heaven with Pro. Thank you. Hopefully it gets much better. As the CEO and somebody that's still super involved in all the details, I love to hear that, because unfortunately, when you make something, you only see all the bugs and problems and all the things we want to fix and make better. So I'm so glad that you're stoked about it today, and expect it to get a whole lot better in the near-term future. So thank you, Michael. Sebastian, can you create a lifetime offer? So yeah, that's something we're considering, some kind of one-time payment. Had a user point me to how WordPress does it. And I think as we can get a little bit more solid footing on the economics and that final base price, that's probably something that's very justifiable. I would expect that we introduce, kind of the things like the PayPal option or the annual payment with a discount first. But we've heard from a number of other folks that a one-time option is more appealing. There's a lot of folks out there that just don't like subscriptions or don't want another subscription. We hear them loud and clear. I don't really want more subscriptions, but they're easy enough now, whether it's with Apple Pay or credit cards and Stripe, that I probably have hundreds. But we want to make sure if people are willing to pay for Pro, that we have all the different kind of flavors and varieties and ways to help them make that happen. So that's on us, and it's definitely something we're looking into. All righty, I think that's all we have time for. Thanks everybody who's tuned in. Really appreciate the questions. As I said before, if you've got other questions that weren't answered, or you think of something new, or you have concerns or problems or bugs, I'm always available on Twitter. Happy, and I'll make sure to respond to as many folks as possible there. And if we're going to keep doing these Ask Me Anything live streams. So you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you'll get notifications about when those are available. And we also try to make sure those are available via the IFT handle on Twitter as well. Thank you all, and have a great day or evening wherever you are. And thanks for supporting IFT and IFT Pro. Cheers. Have a great, great day.